Good morning, Professor. Thank you for joining us here on the C Morning Show. Good to see you again.
Good morning, all. Thank you very much for having me here. Thank you.
This is a very complicated issue, so we're going to need your help to kind of untangle this mess that we're discussing. The arbitration court had decided to fine the Indonesian Defense Ministry. What can the government do, or is there anything that the government can do to counter the court's decision, first off?
Okay, before we go into the issue of what the government can do, let me clarify two things. First of all, the arbitration case that is happening, there are two cases. One is in London and the other one in Singapore. The London one is an issue where the Ministry of Defense is leasing a satellite. That satellite is very useful to put into the Indonesian slot, because under the ITU, if you don't have any satellite there within 3 years, then you will lose, and then the next business entrepreneurs will try to have that satellite be there. Okay. So that's one issue, and we have paid all the fine that the arbitration in London asked for the Ministry of Defense to pay. The other issue is a satellite that is going to be launched by the Ministry of Defense. This is the real satellite. This is the satellite that will replace the satellite that used the Indonesian slot, the 123 orbit. Now, this satellite is built by Airbus. And a company called Navayo, they are the one who's selling to the Ministry of Defense the handheld gadgets, so that from the land we can communicate to the satellite. Now, the interesting point is the satellite has never been built, but the handheld gadget has been sold to the Ministry of Defense, and the Ministry of Defense at the time, the subordinates accept that yes, we have taken the handheld gadgets. Now, because of that, and the Ministry of Defense have not paid for it, Navayo asked for arbitration in Singapore. And the arbitration in Singapore found that Ministry of Defense have to pay the payment and also the penalty. And this has been, the arbitration award has been issued in June 2021. Now, after that, there are two issues that can be used by the government. First of all, government can ask Singapore court to nullify that arbitration award. This is referred to as the setting aside. Unfortunately, I look at the Arbitration Act in Singapore. It expires for 3 months after the one who have to do the arbitration award receive that award. So that is not going to work for the Indonesian government. Right. The other issue is for the arbitration award, because the Indonesian government is going to, initially they're going to pay in December. But the problem is when they have to pay, they need this to be audited first by the audit board of the government, BPKP. And the BPKP found out that there is irregularities in the project. They said that why is it that the satellite is not there, but the communication handheld they have received? That's one. And the issue of smuggling. The issue of smuggling is because the equipment was accepted in Indonesia without the proper formalities by the Bea Cukai, the custom office. And also the equipment is not as high as the fine was put by the arbitration. So this is where the Ministry of Coordinating asked for an investigation by the Attorney General office, because the government cannot pay if it's a quote-unquote a hanky-panky on this.
Right.
You know, I'm not saying that it is a corruption yet, because it has to be proven before the Indonesian court, but there is a hanky-panky.
Right.
And because of that, the government up until today have not paid the fine that was stated in the award. Now, if the arbitration award is going to be enforced in Indonesia, of course the government can say that look, they have to go to Indonesian court. They have to say that, look, the Indonesian you have to look that this is there's an involvement of corruption, not at the policy making level,
right,
but at the very bottom level, because of this corruption. And then the Attorney General office is now doing the investigation. You need not to enforce this arbitration award from Singapore. So there are the two things that the government can do. Setting aside, which unfortunately we have run out of time. The other one is, once the arbitration award is asked for enforcement in Indonesia, then government can ask for the court in Indonesia to refuse that enforcement.
We don't actually know where the satellite is at this point.
Well, the satellite has never been built.
Right.
Airbus, the Ministry of Defense have contracted Airbus, but they have not started in building that satellite.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And also the satellite that we leased from this company from UK, Avanti, it has been out of the orbit. But remember that we have about like 2-3 years time to fill in that slot.
Right.
This is where the Ministry of Communication and Information is negotiating with the ITU in making sure that the slot is safe for Indonesia. And then, of course, Indonesia now asks who wants to put a satellite there from Indonesia. And there's this one company that say that they want to put it there. But this company, there is an indication that they are involved. From the government side, they are saying that they may involve in this issue of corruption. So they are investigating that company, the Attorney General's office right now.
All right, Professor, that certainly is a lot of irregularities going on right now. Now, if the Attorney General's office come up with the suspect, in the corruption case, will that rule out the arbitration's ruling in Singapore?
Well, of course, the ruling is made in Singapore. It is issued in Singapore. But, in a legal process, there's another step that you need to do if the ruling is not accepted by the one who lost the case. And this is where enforcement is very important. Now, enforcement is done through court, one. And secondly, enforcement is done through court where the assets of the losing party exist. So if it's a Ministry of Defense, the asset is of course in Indonesia. They have to go to Indonesian court. If they want to go to other courts outside Indonesia, of course they can do that, but they have to look for assets of the Ministry of Defense or assets of the Indonesian government. But assets like the embassies, of course, are immune, or they have the immunity not to be enforced.
Okay. So what happens if the satellite provider just doesn't attend the Indonesian court proceedings in this case?
Well, they have to attend because they're the one who have the interest to making sure that the award is enforced in Indonesia. Again, the Ministry of Defense, of course, with their lawyers, will try to make sure that they will be refused the arbitration award once they wanted to be enforced here in Indonesia.
Right. All right. Professor, is there a precedent to a case like this? Has there ever been a case that is the same as the satellite corruption case that the government can look onto and look for the solutions from?
Well, there is a case, the Kara Bodas Company versus Pertamina. At that time, it was not PT Pertamina, but it was Pertamina who have the authority from the government directly. And they lost a case, but there's no corruption in this issue. And the award was not enforced in Indonesia. Because Pertamina have assets outside Indonesia, so it was in the United States, it was in New York. So they go there and then they ask for the freeze of bank account of Pertamina, and they have successful. And this involved about like 267 million US dollars.
Wow, okay. So in your opinion then, Professor, what is the best way out of this for the Indonesian government and Defense Ministry?
Well, the best way is making sure that the award is not going to be enforced. Yes, we lost the case, but the government has to frustrate the arbitration award, making sure that it will not be enforced. And this is very important because there's an indication of corruption. As I mentioned, the government was willing to pay the fine or the penalties that was decided by the arbitration award in Singapore, but because of the BPKP findings that there is a irregularities that the government decided not to pay.
I see. Okay, it's a little bit more sense now, but still very complicated as it stands. But we do appreciate your insight into this, Professor. Then thank you for taking the time to join us and discussing this issue as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Take good care, Professor. Stay safe.